I started with the Chamber of Commerce for the first like 9 months of networking, and then I got into a BNI chapter. And because I had networked so hard, like I went from that one networking event to deciding I'll go to as many networking events as I possibly can, so that then I can work out how to use it as a sales tool. And that's where a lot of my sales comes from, is really how to use networking as a sales tool. And so I went to these big events and small events and obscure things. And so people would see me. It was really bizarre, like the people that went out networking, and then I go, oh, look at you over there, but I saw you over there. And so, and someone would be at BNI, but there'd be this tiny little one, right? And then I was a big Chamber of Commerce, and then be these other well-known things. And yeah, so I would run into the same people a number of times. And so within 6 months, that's how I got the name the Networking Queen, is because basically the whole of Canberra gave it to me. But then when I joined my BNI chapter, which was, 9 months later, they wanted to make me vice president. I was there for 3 weeks. They wanted me to be vice president. And the president and the director said, she can't be, she doesn't know the BNI rules yet, so she can't be. She needs to learn how to do this. You need to pick someone else who's been here longer. And half the group knew me from all these different networking things. And they said, but she knows most of us by accident. She already knew us, and she knows networking. And we believe in her, and she can do it. And I'm like, well, if you say I can do it, I'll do it, right? Not having any idea what I was putting my hand up for. So against the director's wishes, I got put in, right? Turns out the vice president runs the entire group. You think it's the president. The president hosts the meeting, but the vice president is in charge of attendance and the rules and making sure people turn up, right? And my job, so imagine this, I'm a woman. I was 35 years old, or 36 years old, right? I'm a woman who was technically probably older than most of the people. They were probably sitting at about 30, right? But they were all professional suits, and they'd been in their job for over 10 or 12 years, whereas I'm a sales trainer, entrepreneur, just stepped out, doing it this way, just learning about networking. They've been out for a long time. So business-wise, they had years and years and years and years and years of experience over me. And then I was in charge of all of them. And the president of the group had been recently dumped by his girlfriend that he'd been living with for over 8 years. And so he basically hated women. And I was one of the very few there. And I was in charge of the rules. So I had to learn how to be in charge. I don't mind rules, but I had to learn how to be in charge while not being hated by everybody. And how I did it, right, was at every meeting. Well, first off, I had to listen to their elevator pitch and had to listen to go, all right, who's that person? Because I didn't know who they were, right? So who's that person? There's over 20 of them. What do they do? And so I would start to write down their names. When I heard them say it, which the majority of people don't say their name, they just plow straight into their elevator pitch. I'm like, God, who was that? Who was that? So I discovered this really cool thing with BNIs. They give you like a run sheet to say the order of the meeting. And on the other side, it's got all the members in it. And we were notoriously bad for inviting visitors. So all I had to do was tick off the people on the back, like it's just the meeting people, right? And so I'm listening for their name, trying to go down the list and tick off who was there. So I was like marking roll every week and then trying to write down what people did because I couldn't work it out. Every week they changed the elevator pitch. So every week, and they're going, oh, well, who was the person who did that other thing? And they've gone, that's the accountant. No, because the accountant does this thing over here. So I'd start to have this image of everyone, but it seemed like a different group of people every week because their pitch changed so dramatically every week, which is now starting to teach me, right? Back then was teaching me, if you change your pitch, how's everyone supposed to remember who you are? Because this is really, really hard. And you're not saying your name. How are we supposed to remember who you are? I collected all of their business cards and I'm hearing about, well, who's the accountant? Who's the mortgage broker? Did anyone say that? Because I'll just put that back to the business card. Well, how am I supposed to remember who you are, right? So because I was trying to write notes of these things until I got used to the people, then I'd start to mark the roll, right? What I did was I would turn up to the meeting and then I'd say, I'll be in charge of the name tags. I mean, if you're forgetting your name to bring your name tag, give it to me. I'll carry it around all week. I'll bring it. And so I would take everybody's name tags and then I would put it back out. So because I was handing out their name tags at the beginning, I was starting to know that person, that name, you know. So I left them not in charge of their own name tag because people were rubbish at bringing their own names. You would know this, Kathy, from being at Chamber of Commerce. People were rubbish. So I became in charge of that so that I could remember their name. But my real secret was learning to just write down everybody's name and ticking it off, right? That person's here, that person's here, that person's here. Put it back to the original list of people, who's here, who's not. Over the years of doing this, I was there for 3 years. I remember, oh no, a year and a half in, I was having a one-to-one with one of the new members and he said, wow, how do you keep control of all of these people? Because I know you're not just here. You're at all these other events, you're bringing all these visitors. How do you keep control of all of these people? Here was my answer, and it's never changed in 11 years. I write down the names of every people I networked at that meeting, every single meeting. So at BNI, it was easy. It was sitting there. When they say it, they would do it. And then I could critique them and say, you didn't say your name, you should say your name. You know, if there's a visitor, nobody knows who you are, right? I'd go to the Chamber of Commerce. I collect business cards, like as many as I could. And then I would write a list of all the names of the people that were there, so that then I had it. So my constant having to write down that list, which seems like a waste of time in handwritten form, right? The waste is, I would start to remember them from different groups. Like Kathy said, I would just start to remember them from different groups. Then I would invite them around places. And then as you write down their name in a different order, every single time, because sometimes they're at the top of the list, sometimes at the bottom of the list. As you do this every single time, you start to remember who they are, what they do, little bits about them, and you see them in different lights because they show up in a different spot on your list. And there'll be other people sitting around and you go, oh, I've just come up with an idea to batch you two together. Oh, I didn't see that before because someone might have been up here and someone was down here. Then sometimes when I did my very first talk, I'd write down all the people you know now. So it's all the people from all the lists, one big long list. So I could do a invited you, tick, invited you, tick, invited you, tick. Then for fun, every now and then I would just get out the notepad and write a list of every person I could remember their name. How many are there really? So it would make me remember, when you remember their name, you start to remember little bits and pieces. And that has been one of the big things that I teach now, is always write the list of people, have one notebook with a list of people per each event, because that by itself will have you remember more people than anyone else at any other event as well.